Hi, I'm Paulo from Chupan Games, and I'm making this video to show what I have been done in the last 3 months. First, a disclaimer. This video is not to be polished and will not be polished, and is not an official criteria course video. It's just a quick uh, video to show what criteria, how criteria has grow or what's new in criteria. Okay, and please take this video with a grain of salt. Okay, as you may well be aware of, we are very concentrated on launching the game, and I particularly I'm programming the D D&D 2024, and there's lots of things to talk about. Well, for instance, we have some filters now in the character sheet. And for instance, we have this lineage field here, which has a table, and this lineage here has two keys. One is the species and the other is the lineage, with the idea being there are some lineages that belongs to some species. Okay, elf has 3, dwarf has 2, gnome has 2, Goliath has 5, and so on. Okay, and now we can choose here in the field lineage, say that this will appear for every table that has more than one key, and you will be able to filter the contents of this table based on the other table. In practice, when you fill, for instance, the species, lineage will appear because of this filter, and will filter only what lineages that belong to the dragonborn species. Ok? Ou seja, and because these 3 lineages are belongs to dragonborn. Okay, I almost speak Portuguese. I'm sorry, and there's still lots of yellow text. This is a in development. It's an alpha version. Please, grain of salt, please, people. So remembering, okay, for instance, we have some characteristics here that will be filtered by the first key. Another way to filter it is to use another field. For instance, I will create an elf option. It doesn't matter, just an example. Elf option doesn't matter. Option and data type boolean. Okay, and the other field will be if species is elf, if species equal elf. Okay, now we have here, if I put elf here, then I have an elf option field here. If I choose another, this goes away. So this is useful to kind of personalize and customize the character sheet based on previous options. This is already, it's not unlike what is happening in the action step input. Now I have revamped almost entirely the data type system, and now we have much more data types than we have before. Okay, it's lots of options here, and you can have icon data type, you have journal section data type, you can have asset data type and affect data type. But there's each one has its uses. But a very interesting thing here is that now you can have, for instance, if you choose a table data type for a parameter, now the table will appear below to choose which table this belongs. And this can be used to give life quality or to programming. So when you use this info has class sub and level somewhere, you will be presented with a combo instead of a text type. Okay, so let's look at this, for instance, in a rule. Okay, rule. One rule that uses it. Okay, no, an action, perhaps. Warrior of the Gods. Here. And has to be class and level. Now, the parameter is now a combo. So before of this was a text. So this really helps to use to create auxiliary informations to help programming. Okay, and this is not for tables. This is for anything. That's for options. That's for combos, for anything really. Okay, if you choose an icon there, you have a button here to choose the icon and so on. Another interesting thing is that the switch command is now have two options. We have the switch express and the switch command, like this. I will use the switch command here, put things here. And now the switch understands several different inputs. For instance, suppose that I will input this with this parameter called class. So parameter value here. So when I choose class, okay, now you can he understands this thing and explodes this here. And this works for combos, this works for anything. You don't, for instance, before that we need to create variables to use, for instance, inventory fields, and inventory fields are now understand directly from parameters to be used. So there's no more necessity to create a local var of an inventory parameter. Okay, lots of this. I have invested much time in this because this really helps programming criteria. I think this reduces error a lot because we are now filling combos instead of typing text. Okay. Now we have new action kinds. For instance, on enter combat, on leave combat, on turn start, on turn end, on next round. This will be called for each character in combat when some of these events occur. This is useful for setting variables and so on and do whatever you want here. Okay, just for you to know. Well, let's talk about some new things. First one, it's outcomes. Outcomes are a kind of rule with an ending, okay, with a duration. Okay, so let's look at an outcome. And outcomes have parameters. You can change things into the outcome. And it has the unactivated area. and outcomes for actor and outcomes for enemy. This is just like rules. You use this to call infos or to set things. Remember that this too will be called several times. You don't have control over this. So this is meant to be used with the info area, the rules area here. Okay, so create info rule and other table rule and main stat rules. That's those things that are covered already in the criteria course. Okay, and you have on the activated area useful, for instance, is this is a turn undead. Turn undead set conditions for the undead turned that he is frightened and incapacitated, and when the outcome is deactivated, it will return to the normal conditions. Okay, and we have interesting things here. Now we can have not only parameters, but we can have events and moments. One thing at a time, okay? One thing at a time. Let's look at this thing. This is end outcome, okay? And this is the duration of the outcome, okay? This node ends the outcome after 1 minute has passed from the start. Okay? So when you have a rule like on each creator turn start, after 1 minute is passed, the outcome is this rule is just for 1 minute. Okay? And this check is done on creator turn start. For instance, suppose that I have a cleric that creates an aura, and that aura or will last for 1 minute, and that aura is applied to a second character. When this is called in the context of actor equals the cleric. Okay, because the cleric is the creator of this outcome. Outcomes are created using the activate outcome node. For instance, this is an undead turned. Let's look at the turn undead action, which goes to the search. Search is now very good. Turn undead. Okay, you got this, and you just click here, and it opens the action turn undead. It works for everything in the game. And okay, look, I select enemies, I roll dice, and so on. And after some point, I will create and activate an outcome here. Okay, activate outcome, and that turned it. That's it. When I now activate an outcome, the idea is the outcome will rule itself out when 1 minute has passed. Now let's talk about moments. When you click here, you will have options to create moments when this rule will be called on enter combat, on leave combat, on turn start, or turn end, on next round. For instance, this rule says something like this. Okay, each round you may choose an ally and give him 5 some temporary hit points. Okay, so I added a moment on turn start because this is the game says the rule of the RPG says this will happen at your turn start. You choose an ally, and then you had select enemies, a roll dice because you have to roll the die to know how many temporary hit points we will be adding to our ally, and in the resolution we set the field temporary hit points. Okay, And all of this is happening at the rule. Okay, and now we have these new areas called moments. Okay, for each rule we want. This is also valid for outcomes. Outcomes also have moments. And I think triggers have moments. Yes, triggers also have moments. Responses doesn't have, and that's it. Okay? Now we have this thing called events. Events are a way for an action to have to tell rules and outcomes and other things that something is happening. Okay, for instance, the rule that we looked at before, turn undead ends if the undead takes damage. So we have this on damage event, and if we go to, I think this is kind of damage, some info called apply damage, I think. Let's see if this deer here. Okay, create var, set damage, add field damage. No, it's not here, but it maybe is here. Also, we now have this very interesting button here. For instance, if we click here, we go directly to this info. Okay, and that's very useful for navigating. And set damage to apply. Where's call event? Here. Okay, so we are calling the event on damage. The idea is we don't know who we will use this event. We just saying to the two criteria, okay, this character has taken damage. You are now notified. Okay, and if we went here in the rule turn undead, undead, no, I don't remember, but it's here in the, we have an history now, and action turn undead. The action, I don't think it's the action, it's the outcome, I think. Yes, and that turned it. So here we have the on damage area because we create an event here. Add new event area. We'll listen here all events that exist, and in the end, if the undead has taken damage, we simply end the outcome. Okay, so now what is the bottom line here is we now have a place that we can put everything in a rule together. Okay, we can have moments, we can have events, we can have several things that can be used here. For instance, I have this turn undead, and the rule simply says the turn undead ends after 1 minute here, or if the undead takes damage. And you put them here this way. Again, this is not a curse. I'm just telling new things to you. Now we have counters. Counters are numbers that gives a number of times something can be done. For instance, I have this rage counter here. Counters have on counter change and on counter reset areas, but the most important thing is the max times expression. And counters are per character, so you may say, okay, this character, if he is a barbarian and he has this and that number of rages, and these rages are per day or per whatever, okay? But here you have an auto clear place, but in fact this counter is reset when you have something called a long rest, and a long rest is not anything that's in turn start or turn end. It's something of the rule is an action of the rule. So we can, when you look at the action turn long rest action long rest, you see that we reset counters here, and one of the counters that we reset is rage. Okay, and counters can now be edited with the game master can edit counters here. They will appear in this area, counters. Okay, and this can be changed by the game master at runtime in the game. This will not appear to players, okay? This is only for game master. And since I'm here, it will be the same for outcomes. I don't have anything here, but if an outcome is created for that character, for instance, if an undead is turned, okay, it will appear here, and the game master will be able to cancel that out and end that outcome prematurely if the DM wishes. Okay? Let's look at how counters work. For instance, in the action rage, enter rage, I have this can spend counter node. You just say which counter is. You may spend the counter here, but it's not good practice in most situations, because usually you use an action step, and if someone can spend counter and you spend the counter here, and if he cancels the action step, you have spent the counter. It's not a good idea. So the idea is to have an if can spend the counter before you do something. Okay, if this action is valid, if can spend the counter, so the icon will not even appear for barbarians who already use their rage quotas of the day. But if they enter rage, then you simply spend counter, use this node to spend the counter, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, and the criteria takes the rest of the problem from you. And you may increase counters, or you can reset counters. I already explained that, but you can increase counter if you wish. One number, for instance. There are some rules that says, okay, in a short rest you get one rage more for each short rest, and in the long rest you gain all of them. So you have an increase counter node. That's here somewhere. Increase counter. Okay. Oh, there's a bug here. Let me explain. There's a bug here, and I didn't correct this. Yes, if you create a new info here, test, for some reason that I didn't have time to understand, this doesn't work. It stopped working, and you have problems with this. It doesn't work. You have to somewhere, if this filter doesn't work, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, and that's the biggest problem. And you must have to click on actions and click on infos and go back here. This is a known bug. We will try to get this out of the game before launching, of course. Now we have triggers. Triggers are areas in the map that where other characters enter or leave and have some effects on them. Those areas may be on a character, which is at least in D&D I call it auras. So you have an aura of 10 feet around you that you grant your allies immunity to fear, whatever. And or you have a fixed location on map, a fog of something that everybody who enters there is nauseated and so on. So that's done with triggers, and triggers are reasonably complex things, and they have lots of areas. Okay, so for instance, we have uncreated. Is that the moment that you just created the trigger? Okay, it will pass here. On destroyed, this is useful for setting and cleaning up variables. On entering mean a character is moving using the movement and it crosses or enters the trigger. It will call this will be called that's at that time when an enemy or another character enters the trigger. And here on each turn, if the character starts the turn inside, and here this is important. This is, for instance, if a wizard creates a greasy area and someone enters that area. So rules for that person who starts the turn or it is inside on the start of this turn for rules for him. Sometimes you have rules for the enemy. For instance, there's a web area that the enemy has advantage against attacks against you if you are inside the area. So when actor, for instance, myself, my character is inside web, and the enemy has advantage for attacking me. So this is called with the enemy as self, okay, as current. This is called for actor as current. Okay, for instance, when I am inside the grease area, I am prone because I fall and become prone. Okay, and for instance, this area gives advantage for me if my enemy is inside the area. Okay, because the barbarian gives an aura around him that allows allies to attack enemy. If they attack enemy in that area, they will have advantage. I think I can show this to you. This is working, in fact. Okay, I will try to go to the game and show this to you. Okay, Barbarian Wild Heart Wolf. I think this barbarian has that one. I am not sure. Wait. Okay, I will use this example to show several things, several interesting things. Okay. First one, I will choose the barbarian here, and all three. This is a skeleton. This is a bard. This is white fellow. And I will roll initiative just to put them in combat. Okay. And now we have this one that I will tell you right now in the future. And I will not spend luck for advantage. And I roll for bard initiative and I roll for skeleton initiative. Okay. And now, the interesting part. And I will enter rage here. Okay. But I will enter rage and I have presented with this option. We now have a new input. This is called a direct input. And it's very useful to have one click choice. Okay, it's one click here, always one click. I have these three options of Rage Wild. This is because of my subclass. So I will choose Wolf subclass. And Wolf subclass gives an air on trigger around myself. Okay. And it's a 10-foot area. You may see that the skeleton is inside that area. Okay. So theoretically, I didn't test this 100%, but I will do this anyway. Theoretically, this when I attack, and this is a bard, okay, and my bard attacks the skeleton, okay, I have advantage. You see, two dice. I have rolled two dice. That was because of the area of the trigger created by the barbarian rule. Let's look at everything that's happening here. First, the rule for the Rage of the Wilds. Okay, so when a barbarian of this subclass enters Rage, here it's an event, just like the on damage event. On enter Rage, you have this direct answer input, and when you put your options here, okay, and you will use this. I use this in a switch, okay. The switch works very well with this, okay. So if he chooses Wolf, then he will create an area, create a trigger, Barbarian Wild, around that character, okay. And this one is the cosmetic effect around the character, okay. This is an asset, just like any other asset in the game. We have created a number of assets that are meant to be used with local effects for areas, and you have scaled this for the area and so on. And this is purely cosmetic, okay. This is spawn asset, and it's a good node because this spawn asset can spawn any character, any asset in the game. Now you will please promise me that you won't try to create an automatic city spawner using this asset, because it was not meant to do that. Okay, don't explode the game, please, using criteria. And that's it. Let me show you create trigger. Let's go to the trigger here, and remember that in this trigger we already see this, but in this trigger, when the enemy is inside the trigger, I will have advantage attacking him. Please notice that the barbarian is the creator of the trigger, but the actor who is using this is the bard, the white chap there that attacked the undead, just because the undead was inside that area. So lots of things can be done with this when correctly used. Now we have input responses, which are somewhat complicated to understand. Now everything in criteria evolves around actors and enemies. You have someone who is doing an action, and you have his or her enemy, or in fact enemy is not exactly a good word. It's recipient, it would be better word, but enemy is already enemy, so it will be, you will still be enemy, okay. But for instance, if you are healing your allies, they are kind of enemies in this situation, because you will select enemies in the. Perhaps in the future I will change this to select recipients, but that's the idea. But again, everything evolves around an actor, and an enemy, except input responses. Input responses are meant to create rules that say something like, okay, your friend is being attacked by a monster, okay, and you are a bard, and you have the option to, when the monster hit your character, your friend, you can roll a dice and subtract your dice from the 20 side die that the monster has rolled right now, and perhaps that the monster will not kill your character. Okay, so we create an input response for that. Okay, this is do exactly that. It uses a counter, in fact. Okay, and in this input response, okay, you have a single area, and this will be called in specific points. It's just like a call to an info, but with a very different thing. An info is called in the context of an actor, on the context of an enemy. This will be called for everyone. If a character, if this response is valid for a character, in this case is valid for the bard will have the option, okay, a direct answer here, spend bard inspiration to modify, and this is the reason it passed as parameters, is a very interesting thing. So, and he will say yes or no, and it will roll a die here, and it will return the modified value to the color. Okay, so we have this node here, and call it set input. Okay, if you need the original value, you have the get input here. Okay, get input here, because this is, for instance, the value that was rolled by the monster, and we do a journal with it, in fact, and subtract here what you rolled from that. And then there's other rules here. There's a minimum value, and you have a minimum value as parameter here. Okay, and this returns something that will be returned to the caller. Okay, I will go to the place where this will be used to show this better. So this is, I think it's in the attack. I think it's in the attack, or perhaps in the damage. I don't know. Don't remember. Okay, let's try the attack first. And this is becoming too big. I don't remember everything. And okay, this is after heat, so we need to find here. Let me find it. Wait. Here I found it. It's the attack. So here is a place where he have hit your friend. Okay, and you call this node input response with those parameters. So the reason is attack, the journal section is attacked, and the minimum value is 1, because okay, he did 6 on a 20 side die, and you may have an 8 in an 8 side die, and you get -2 when subtracting. Okay, but no, we have a minimum value, and this will be the new row. Okay, so the original row enters here, and it passes the input response, and the input response returns the modified value here. Now let's understand what is happening here. we are now an actor, a monster actor, doing an attack against the wizard. Okay, and the bard, which is not part of this action, he is neither actor nor enemy. He is modifying this action, specifically the d20 roll, and we have a new d20 roll after cutting words. Okay, here. Now, think that we may have 4 bards in the party, and more than one bard can in fact change the value. So it will change the value between bards before reaching here. For instance, we have 2 bards in the party, and the monster hits 18 in the die, and the wizard has no armor at all, and you have to and we roll a d8, and okay, even with that dice, the monster still hits, the wizard will die, and the second bard say, no, I will use my cutting words also, and it may roll a second d8, and in this way the wizard may be saved, and so on. Okay, so this is the only way in criteria for another character do something right in the middle of an action. Okay, you may are thinking in opportunity attacks, but opportunity attacks are not exactly that. Opportunity attacks may be used with simple clicks on actions, but this has to be done in the middle of an action. It has to be done after the first hit and before the damage. So the only way to do that was to create a node that can kind of call another person in the party. So that's why I created the input response object. Well, of course, I will create one or more classes in criteria to talk about this. Again, I am only say that this exists. Okay, please. You will have to wait for the game launches, and we have time to update things here. Thank you.